Hi, I'm Vivek Reddy from Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, and I'm the director of the electrophysiology section. Well, the PULSAR IDE was a pivotal U.S. trial, so it was an FDA trial, and it was designed as a single-arm, multicenter study to hopefully gain FDA approval for this catheter, which is right now investigational. So the catheter that was being studied in Pulsar is called the Globe catheter, and it's actually the system consists of both the ablation catheter as well as a mapping system. It's a fully integrated system. The catheter is interesting because once it's put in the left atrium or right atrium for that matter, but once it's put in the heart and it's expressed as a globe, it has 122 electrodes situated around this globe. And so the idea is you move this, you push it up against the pulmonary vein, and whatever happens to be touching, that's actually what you're going to be delivering energy from. So, from a complexity perspective, it actually makes it easier for the operator, at least it's designed to make it easier for the operator. Um, the system has, the globe itself, it has the ability that each of these electrodes has the ability to determine contact or null contact. And so you can identify which electrodes are touching and then deliver energy only from those electrodes from which you want to deliver energy from. And the energy that we studied in this trial was pulse field energy, though in reality, the system can also deliver radio frequency energy from any electrode. So the PULSAR study was designed as a single-arm, multi-center study conducted in the U.S., Europe, and Canada. And the patients were patients who had paroxysmal atrial fibrillation and had failed at least one class 1 or class 3 antiarrhythmic drug. And the patients were there was one, let's say, roll-in patient that was allowed at each center, and then the patients moved on to the pivotal part of the study. And ultimately, around 165 patients were enrolled in the study. So when we think about the key findings of PULSAR, I think the safety is what really stands out first. And that is that there was only one safety event out of all these patients, so 0.6% rate of safety events of the primary safety endpoint. And that one event was a hemorrhagic stroke. They had nothing to do with the ablation catheter. So I think that was quite favorable. The efficacy side was also very, very powerful data. In fact, I think this may be the highest efficacy rate we've seen in the FDA clinical trial for paroxysmal atrial fibrillation using catheter ablation, and it was 78% 1-year success rate. And it appears that the reason for that was very high pulmonary vein isolation durability, and we know that because the 6% of the patients came back for a second procedure, and in that 6% of patients, when they underwent a second procedure, 95% of the veins remained durably isolated. That's a very high rate of durable isolation. So I think that was also very interesting. And the third aspect was from a workflow perspective, it was very reasonable. The transpired ablation time, meaning beginning of the time from the first lesion to the last lesion, was just over 20 minutes. So things went very well. So the next steps at this point, from a regulatory perspective, my understanding is that the data has already been submitted to the FDA, and so I anticipate there'll be FDA approval sometime, hopefully the middle or later this year. And once that happens, then hopefully the device will be commercialized in the United States. From a clinical trial perspective, one interesting aspect about Pulsar was that yes, we treated only paroxysmal patients, but we are now planning to do another cohort of persistent AFib patients. And I don't know exactly when that phase is going to commence, hopefully later this year. But when it does, I think then we'll be able to see what the effectiveness of durable PV isolation, which is what this delivers, will be for persistent patients.